Yesterday, we covered the dismal situation with Dungeons and Dragons, with obviously these guys jumping ship after they helped destroy this property. Now, that destruction has been going on for a long time. 5th edition was a disaster by itself, in my opinion. I think in a lot of other opinions. And then 5.5 here is stripping everything away that made it what it was. Look at this. Just this image really says it all. These are the two guys who just jumped ship after years, smirking here with the image of like these like black women, like slay queen, right? Yas queen. This is exactly what they've tried to turn Dungeons and Dragons into. Now this is a big problem, and it's a lot of culture. What all these companies have done is they've taken things that are meant to appeal to men and boys, white males in particular, and then tried to say, you know what, I want this to be something that's for black non-binary lesbians in a wheelchair. And you go from a demographic that's like, 40% of the population that you could appeal to a demographic that's 0.01% of the population you could appeal to. You expect that 40% of the population is going to buy it anyway because they're entitled. And if they don't, they blame you for not buying it rather than them for trying to make it not appeal to you. And then they go, what happened? We did everything good. It's been exactly what we wanted. These chuds, these bigots. Yeah. And then, of course, it destroys a company. Big layoffs. Those are coming soon. And these guys are jumping ship before it's happening, in my opinion. Now, it's a Sunday. I want to do kind of like a positive thing. I want to try. We'll see if we can pivot here, guys. But how can we save Dungeons & Dragons? I think there is one easy way to do so. And it came up on my feed yesterday on X, which follow me on X if you don't. I like to connect with everybody here. And let's get into like what we could possibly do on this level. It's not up to us. It's up to Wizards of the Coast if they really want to. If they want to save their brand. I don't know that they actually do. There's one way to do so. Now, hit the like and subscribe button and join us here as we talk about all things in D&D, especially when it comes to fantasy news, my friends. This is it. This is the real fantasy news. And I am a fantasy writer myself. I would love for you to check out my Demon's Eye. It is a classic sword and sorcery book. You're going to love this feel. If you're a Dungeons & Dragons fan, this has all of the elements that, it's really got a lot of inspiration from the original Appendix N that Gary Gygax and the crew wrote back in the day. And Appendix N, if you don't know what it is their list of fantasy and science fiction influences. It was not just Lord of the Rings. It was not just Conan. It was not just like the very simple stuff. There was a lot more to it. Of course, you got to get into Roger Zelazny's Ambers and Paul Anderson's Three Hearts, Three Lions. Those are the type of things that you can discover just from actually looking at the Appendix N list. Now, I took this and I just decided to be an author in this format. So you get a classic adventure here. You get a strong male lead. He's a reluctant hero. He's actually a bard, which you don't get a lot of bard stories at this point. But he used to be a soldier, and he's got a vow of nonviolence at this point. And yet he's still at the middle of a prophecy where he has to save the world from a great evil. You're gonna love this. It's a one and done, so there's no continuation, none of that stuff. It wraps up. I know you never get this anymore these days either. And I would love for you to check it out today. It's in the description below. It's only $4.99. Supports our channel, supports everything we do here. And thank you guys for reading, making us a huge success. This is my biggest launch I ever had, and I appreciate you all for being here. Okay. Yes, grab it today. So what do we do? The sales are terrible for Dungeons & Dragons. This edition is not moving the needle. They're already making excuses. They're going, well, it's basically just a revised edition. So, yeah, but 3.5, I believe, sold better than 3. I don't know about that for sure. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But everybody loved 3.5 when it came out, right? And so what they did was they fixed all the problems. This didn't fix the problems. It did the opposite. It created more problems for the game. It stripped away everything that made the settings beautiful. It stripped away everything that made Dungeons & Dragons special, and it made it for this like snowflake safe space, for people who want to go to Blue Sky. And unfortunately, there's not very many actual people who go to Blue Sky, especially not ones that have disposable income to buy books and buy subscriptions, which is really, really the ridiculous part. They wanted to move to this internet subscription model, where you have your one D&D, and then you're going to be paying monthly for them to do like these minor updates and things like that, and people rejected that. Now, there's a few reasons for this. So I mean, the whole reason let's get to the audience here, and let's be honest, the tabletop RPG crowd are like notoriously cheap. It's always been this way. I used to run a comic/game store back in the day, and that was always the case. Like you have the DM guy who usually is like he's a collector. He buys all the supplements. And if you identify with this, you're probably in the description below. I can think of a couple of you who watch this channel. I know who you are, and you have bookshelves full of D&D stuff, full of a garage full of models like that you've got and things like that. Just drawers and drawers full of dice, and then a lot of the players just show up with paper, right? Because they don't want to spend money on things, and so you've got it's a really interesting dynamic on a marketing and economic perspective that nobody's ever going to write because nobody would read that book, but it's like a case study. You've got a notoriously cheap group as it is. So if something doesn't appeal to them, it's like way over at that point. And you just lost the audience. Now, they keep trying to push this new modern audience, as I've said before, and it just isn't there. And so this is what they've done with D&D. So while this is happening, there's been something that's been going on pretty well. Let's look at a alternative that is done pretty good here. This is called the Adventure Conqueror King system, and this was done on Kickstarter a while back, and it made $300,000 right here as an independent game, right? And it's starting to come out right now, and people are starting to get their books right here. Beautiful, beautiful books with this like gorgeous little wood box, like for this collector's edition, all this cool stuff. So people are starting to get this. And obviously, this is creating a little bit of buzz. Now, this is interesting because the tabletop community doesn't talk about it. None of the big websites talk about it. It's all done through word of mouth and all done organically, like the old D&D was back in the day. And so this is something that actually works and people really enjoy. And it has that classic D&D feel, and that's why people like it. It's pretty simple, you'd think. Now, Alexander Macris, who is the designer of this, talked about what was interesting with this stuff. Jeremy Crawford's out, the third departure of massive layoffs at Wizards of the Coast, what's happening over there. He says, I stand ready to take the reins and restore the glory of Dungeons & Dragons. Wow. I mean, I obviously had to comment real quick. I said I wouldn't wish this on you unless you owned the properties you could actually make decisions. Because if Hasbro owned it and he was not actually making decisions on the property, they were trying to appeal to that modern audience and the like, it would not go well at that point because he would just get vetoed on everything. But if he had full realm and full control, we see the success right here. This is pretty awesome and obviously pretty cool. Now you can get some of the Axe stuff on DriveThruRPG if you missed this. It's still out there. I'll put that up in the description below to help out here. But guys, if he took this, look at what he said it shall be done. Look at this is. You get my vote if you retcon all the settings lore back to the end of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2. It shall be done. Okay. That's exciting. Now, here's the deal. For these type of things, AD&D was the height of this. 3.5, is another height of it. You can make your arguments between the two games if you want. But there was a lot of cool stuff back then. And it was what everybody loved back then. So if you want to capitalize on the nostalgia, if you want to capitalize on what the players actually want, if you want to capitalize on a designer who knows his shit, this is exactly what they should do. And Elon talked about buying Hasbro to save D&D last year. It was kind of a joke, but Elon, of course, understands that D&D is in a bad spot, that it's gone woke, that it has problems, and it's not what it used to be. And this is the way to go. Now, I prefer, honestly, I'm an anti-brand person in general. And so when somebody comes out with an independent product like Adventure Conqueror King system, I would much rather just go that direction. I'd hope gamers will just go that direction rather than go out and go and try to make a brand go for Hasbro. Because, when you've got somebody who is a real creative, a real designer who owns his own deal, he's going to take a lot more care of it than a corporation's going to regardless. And so I do think this is the future of gaming as it is. I think people should just veer away from D&D, and Pathfinder's a disaster too. Just stay away from those companies because they hate you is really what it comes down to. But in a perfect world, if Elon did buy Hasbro, he should put Alexander Macris in charge right here, just like he says, to restore the glory of Dungeons & Dragons, and I think he could actually save it. I think that's the one situation where I could be like, you know what? This will make D&D great again. What do you think, guys? Leave a comment down below. Love to hear from you. Hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure to check out my great fantasy, The Demon's Eye. It's in the description below as well. Really appreciate you all for being here. And have a good Sunday, everybody. We'll be back soon.